I'm endlessly fascinated and curious about the world around us, about business, about politics, about the arts, about culture, developments, social issues, and the people. Most importantly, about the people that are shaping our future. Every night, I get the opportunity to have conversations, to dive into conversations with thought leaders, with change makers, entrepreneurs, politicians, and everyday heroes who unpack the ideas and stories that I think matter to all of us. What's the future of our economy? What's the future of our country? How do we build stronger communities? What can we learn from music, theater, sports, politics, the arts? How does policy shape our real lives? What does leadership look like, real leadership in today's environment? If it's interesting and relevant and topical and we're talking about it, you'll hear about it here at 6 o'clock on the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I want to have real conversations, in-depth conversations. These are ideas we're sharing. This is the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. Thanks for joining me. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I thought that conversation with Beth Sturdevant about Charlie Kirk was really interesting. And I thought her post on Facebook that got comments both pro and negative to her and to Charlie Kirk were generally respectful and detailed in their responses. And I think that that's good. Obviously, she says that some people made some negative comments and defriended her. I didn't see them, and so I don't know about that. And that's a real shame if that some people reacted the way that they did. You know, when I was growing up, the best seminar room I was ever at was my dinner table. And I had three siblings that were all smart, articulate, well-educated, passionate. And we all had at different times, different points of view, and a mother and a father who were similarly really interested in discussions. And we had really healthy discussions every night. My eldest brother ended up becoming a minister. My sister becoming a PhD in biology, microbiology. My brother becoming an engineer. I was a business person. We all went in different ways from an occupational career standpoint, and you know, different political sort of not terribly diverse, but different political ways. And some of us have shifted our political views, and we've also had some challenges in life, and I think that you know, that makes for an interesting discussion. And when we get together now, it's still an interesting discussion amongst us all. I tried to have a similar kind of attitude with the dinner table with my own children and my wife at the time, and I think that that was a really healthy discussion. And Jim Pattison, who I used to work with, would invite people to speak. And he thought that one of the best ways to get the best point of view was to give everyone an opportunity to speak for 2 minutes, unfettered, uninterrupted, because very rarely do you have the chance to actually stand up in front of a group and speak for 2 minutes. And I learned a lot from Jim Pattison, who really thought that not creating opposition, but inviting discussion and debate was really helpful. And so I think Charlie Kirk did that. And, you know, has he been criticized that sometimes he was a little bit irate or oppositional or aggressive or short in his answers? You know, maybe, I don't know. But as I mentioned with Beth, one of the best podcasts I've listened to was a discussion between Governor Gavin Newsom of California and Charlie Kirk, where Gavin Newsom invited Charlie Kirk on his podcast, and they had a really good, respectful discussion of a bunch of different issues, and they didn't hold back. They really discussed and debated. And I thought that was really interesting exchange of views. We need to do that more often. And so I'm going to talk about a couple of these issues that Charlie Kirk has talked about at the risk of being criticized, but I think it's helpful. And let me say at the top, I mourn the death of Charlie Kirk. I think that he contributed to public discourse. I think he was an interesting individual, and no one deserves to be murdered or assassinated. And I think that, you know, any family left without a father or a mother is a tragedy. And so I just think clearly, you know, no question that was wrong, absolutely wrong, and an assassination, murder of any type is wrong. But let's talk about some of his issues just for a couple of minutes. Gun control. Charlie Kirk made the comment that some gun deaths in the United States are worth it to ensure the continued existence of the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which is all about the right to bear arms. I disagree with that completely. I've been a strong believer in gun registration, if not gun control. I think that there's far too many guns in Canada, let alone too many guns in the United States. I don't think that hunters are the problem, and I think that people should have the right to hunt. And so I think that some of the gun control that has limited hunting is completely wrong. But I think that AR-15s, there are weapons on Canadian streets that are completely inappropriate and need to be controlled and banned and done away with. I was the foreman of a jury trial, a murder trial, where a policeman shot his wife with a rifle, and it was a harrowing experience for me to be in the jury and listening for days on end about the whole testimony of how, even though he was trained to protect his guns and his munitions, he didn't do it, and he exposed it to his friends way too often, and then he got drunk and used them, and I thought that was wrong. So I disagree with his position on gun control. On civil rights, he criticized Martin Luther King Jr., calling Martin Luther King Jr. awful and not a good person, and that the Civil Rights Act of 1965 that outlawed discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, and national origin and prohibited segregation was wrong. He said it was a huge mistake that the United States passed the Civil Rights Act. I think that's a mistake. To say that, I think that there were things in the United States and Canada that needed to be changed fairly dramatically. That said, did we go too far? And Kirk has said that it created a permanent bureaucracy meant to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think diversity, equity, and inclusion are important, are helpful. I think leads us to the best discussions and the best outcomes and the best products, the best markets, the best trades, etc. Because I think if we're all looking like me, we'll come up with one solution. If we have organizations, teams, etc., that have got diverse points of view in them, we're going to make better decisions, and that's important. I interviewed John Tory at one point in time, and he said you got to invite the unusual, unexpected people to the table, because that's when you're going to get the best decisions. And I agree with that point of view completely. That said, did affirmative action go too far? Has there been some parts of our DEI implementations that have harmed people because it was less merit-based and more based on what group you were part of? That's possible. And so on that one, I don't agree with Charlie Kirk, but I'm also not completely against him. On abortion, he said that abortion is never medically necessary, and that he would always force someone to take a baby to term, no matter what had happened, rape, incest, or anything. And he was quoted as saying, wouldn't it be a better story to say something evil happened and we do something good in the face of evil instead of saying we're going to do evil? In other words, don't abort, have the baby brought to term. I think there are people that believe very religiously against abortion. And I think there's a whole bunch of other people that believe, whether it's religiously or otherwise, medically, biologically, or just their belief that life doesn't begin until birth. And I think there is a opportunity to debate between conception and birth. And I think most people really are probably somewhere in the middle, that they would think that there are reasons why abortion of someone that's raped, someone that is unwanted, that there's an issue with the health of the mother. There's lots of reasons why I think people should have the right to choose to abort. I don't know if I could ever, and I'm frankly probably wouldn't have been in the room to decide. But I don't know if I could have ever agreed to an abortion personally. But I did in my family have two miscarriages, and we didn't mourn them as deaths, though we were sad. So I think the reality is that people actually are in the middle of the extremes on this debate. And if we realize that the vast majority of us really are in the muddy middle, it would be a lot easier. So I disagree with Charlie Kirk, where there's never a opportunity for or a reason for or rationale for abortion. And I certainly disagree with him that the state should impose their views on everyone else. But at the same time, I'm not one that says that any abortion up to the line of birth should be allowed. I think there probably is some spot somewhere in the middle, and whether it's the second trimester or the first trimester or somewhere in the middle, I don't know. I know how I would personally believe, and I guess that's the key in the end. I think it should be a personal decision, and frankly, probably not including me. Probably the mother and her physician should be the people that decide what's right for them and for the potential life that's inside of them. He's also talked about fertility collapse because of abortion. I don't think that's because of abortion. I think that's choice. And if it was an abortion, it would be vasectomies, the pill, abstinence, etc. I think in every society around the world, when females have become more educated, we become more city-oriented, less agriculturally oriented, you've seen the drop in fertility. And I think that is therefore a choice, and that's what people want. I think Israel is another issue that needs to be thought about. And again, on this one, I think the vast majority of people actually are in the middle on this. I think that Israel has a right and a responsibility to defend itself. And I think what happened on October 7th, 2 years ago, was unbelievable, disgusting. It was the worst thing since the Holocaust that happened to the Jewish people. And I think Israel had a right and a responsibility to attack Hamas and defend itself. That said, at the same time, I can believe that I think that the current Israeli activities in Gaza have gone too far, and too many citizens have lost their life. Innocent citizens. Do I think that Hamas was using them as shields, human shields? Yes, and I think that's wrong. But I think at the same time, too many innocent people have lost their lives. So I think that the vast majority of people actually can think two ways, not just supportive of Israel as Charlie Kirk was, but also very disappointed, if not disgusted, with the loss of life in Gaza. And then the last one is conspiracy theories. And I think Charlie Kirk was one of those people that was very anti-vax. He called it the China virus. I think he equated vaccine mandates to apartheid. I think that was wrong. I think that went way too far. Do I, at the same time, think that some of the vaccine mandates, some of the prohibitions that were put in place, some of the closures that were put in place went too far? I do. And I've argued this on my show. I think that when Mississauga closed parks, it was wrong. And then I was corrected. It wasn't parks, it was the parking lot of parks. But it had the same effect. And later on we found out that the best possible thing you could do is go for a walk outside. And that the chance of catching COVID outside was like next to nothing. I think that to closing down schools to the extent that we did, and robbing young people that were obviously less susceptible to fatalities from COVID, was wrong, and it robbed them of a critically developmental opportunity in high school or university. And so I think that was wrong. And at the same time, I don't think we did a good enough job with seniors' homes. So I think we did too much with young people and not enough with older people. And so again, I think the reality is somewhere in the middle. And so I guess when I come out is, I think what Charlie Kirk was doing in talking and getting people engaged in discussion and debates and motivating a whole bunch of people that may not have even paid attention to the issues before was helpful. And I think that the fact that he quoted scripture was helpful. It makes people go back and read. And, one of the favorite scenes I have from The West Wing is when President Bartlett quotes scripture back to the TV personality that was saying homosexuality was against the Old Testament, and he points out that a whole bunch of other things like holding a football and working on the Sabbath were also against the Old Testament. So he uses a very good humor to combat the point of view, and so I think that that's good. That I think there's a lot of stuff in the New Testament that I believe very strongly in that disagrees with a lot of the things that are in the Old Testament that Charlie Kirk was quoting. And so I think to be a good Christian, one needs to read both books and think about it. And so I love the Jewish attitude of studying the Talmud and really studying things and thinking about things and talking about things and discussing things before one comes to a definitive point of view. Bottom line, it's very sad that anyone was assassinated or murdered. And it's obviously a tragedy that Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And I think while I don't want to celebrate his life, I do want to remember him. I want to remember the role he played in bringing forth debate and discussion. And I think that the idea of going on college campuses or going into the community and having respectful discussions and doing that on social media and doing that on my radio show and anywhere else that people can have good discussions is critically important, because that's the only way we're going to have a good community and hopefully in the end become less polarized and never be enemies, but be friends / at times competitors, because I think we are better if we have good discussions. We get better at our points of view. We get better at playing soccer or hockey or football or whatever it is if we've got tough competitors. But then afterwards, shake hands, give them a hug, say thanks for the good game. Anyway, that's a couple of thoughts from Brian Crombie on Charlie Kirk. I hope you don't think I've been unreasonable, because I don't think I have. Good night, everybody. I remind you all every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. All the best. Good night.